My guy, you don't need better communication. You need to become a better version of yourself. If you think the problem in your marriage is bad communication and you just need to communicate better, you're wrong. You don't need better communication. That's not your problem. I'm going to tell you what the real problem is, why talking more won't fix it, and what you need to do instead to make your wife respect you again. You're an engineer, an entrepreneur, or a corporate executive. Your marriage is struggling. The bedroom is dead. Your wife is disrespectful. She's cold. When you think about what's wrong, you probably think, we just need better communication. Maybe your therapist told you that. Maybe you've heard it from 1,000 other people. But here's the truth. That's not your problem. My name is AD the Kingmaker, and I help entrepreneurs, executives, and engineers save their marriages, stop all their wives' bad behavior, and get their wives desiring them again without begging, therapy, and without losing themselves in the process. I'll show you how to get her jumping out her drawers the same way she did during the honeymoon phase. If that's something you're interested in, subscribe to my page for more content like this. So maybe you're thinking, if we just communicate better, we could work through this. Maybe you're thinking, she doesn't understand how I feel because I'm not expressing myself clearly enough. Or maybe you think, if I could just find the right words, she'd get it and things would change. Maybe your therapist told you you two have a communication problem. You need to work on expressing your feelings more. Here's what's actually happening. You're chasing the wrong problem. So often when I ask clients, what's the biggest problem in your marriage today? They tell me our communication sucks or we need better communication. I'm assuming they say this because modern talk therapy or because they've heard hundreds of thousands of other people say this. But I would argue you don't need better communication. Now, could having better communication, meaning words, help you? Yeah, to some degree, but it's not the major issue. The major issue is what you're communicating. Last time I checked, verbal communication only accounted for a small percentage of communication. Most communication is nonverbal. I think it's somewhere close to 75% of communication is nonverbal. So you're always communicating something, whether you know it or not. When you cower to your woman's emotions and let her disrespect you, you are non-verbally communicating, I'm the kind of man you can disrespect with no consequences. When you take back your cheating wife, you're non-verbally communicating, I'm the kind of guy you can cheat on with no consequences. When you let her take your children and do nothing about it other than bitch and moan, you're communicating. I'm the kind of guy you can take his children away from and there will be no consequences other than me bitching and moaning. You communicate just fine. It's the fact that you don't respect yourself, that you don't like yourself, and that you don't love yourself. You communicate as a guy who does not like, love, or respect himself, and that's why your woman does not like, love, or respect you. So the problem is not that you need better communication. The problem is what you're communicating non-verbally when you tolerate the actions and behaviors that you tolerate. I can hear my naysayers now. But AD, my therapist told me we have a communication problem. I do believe that working on expressing your feelings more clearly and more accurately is a great idea. It's a phenomenal idea. And there's going to be another episode that I make that speaks about that. Most men communicate anger when in reality, they're sad, they're hurt, they're depressed, they're disappointed. There are all these other vulnerable emotions that they don't want to admit to or don't know how to admit because somehow that makes them feel less of a man or some shit like that. But here's what I recommend you do. Become a better version of yourself. And then when you become a man who loves and respects himself, you'll know the right words to say. You'll know what to do and what not to do because you won't need a script from me. You'll just be it. It's kind of like the difference between trying to seem like a skilled poker player versus actually being one. You can't fake the funk. But AD, if I don't communicate what I need, your woman already knows what you need. She knows what bothers you. The problem is not that she doesn't understand. The problem is that she's not attracted to you enough to care. Another big issue is that she's just not attracted to you. So your words fall on deaf ears. What your woman does and does not respond to has a whole hell of a lot to do with how attracted to you she is, how much she likes you. One of my mentors always tells me, you want to like who likes you. And the issue with a lot of you guys is that you started with a woman who you liked instead of starting with a woman who likes you. Words work when she likes you. You must first learn how to turn around her attraction such that she is highly sexually attracted to you. Then you can start using words again. But words don't work when she's not attracted to you. So use less of them. Okay, specifically, if you're in this position on this earth watching this YouTube video at this time, she's probably not attracted to you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Okay, so for you in this position, use less words when communicating. And then when you do become highly attractive to her again, you still don't need to use words as much. I'm all about having easy, effortless relationships. And a lot of this talking, a lot of words that you're using require a lot of effort, and the return on it is so low. Words are far less effective than actions. And if you don't believe me, let's experiment. Do you want to talk about having great sex? Or do you want to have great sex? Do you want to talk about your wife being obedient and submissive? Or do you want your wife to be obedient and submissive? Talking only goes so far. What we truly want is changed behavior. But AD, what's the difference between what you're saying and being passive aggressive? The difference between what I'm saying versus being silent and passive aggressive is this. When you're passive aggressive, you're silent. Typically, what you're doing is avoiding conflict. I'm not saying avoid conflict. I'm saying to address it, and you can address it with your actions. Great example. I have a friend of mine who is immaculate with women. I get advice from this guy all the time. I was having a conversation with him one day, and I asked him, hey, man, what do you do when your woman gets loud and gets an attitude? He was like, I just turn around and walk away. I said, that's it? He was like, yeah, I communicate what I need to communicate. You will not speak to me like that. You will not have my presence while speaking in that manner. I said, I love it. Now, he doesn't walk away with an attitude. He doesn't walk away in a funk. He just simply turns his back and walks away, and then allows her to come to him and initiate with him. And the first thing she must do is apologize for her actions. That is the fucking difference. So what does communicating through actions actually look like? Let me give you a parable that kind of drives this point home. There's an old story about a slave master who was walking his property one afternoon when one particular slave caught his eye. This man didn't walk like the others. He didn't shuffle. He didn't slump. He didn't avoid eye contact. He walked with his back straight, his chest open, and his head high, like a man who knew exactly who he was. The master pulled one of the overseers aside and said, why does that one walk like that? Why does he carry himself differently than the rest? The overseer said, because he was born a prince. His body may be here, but his mind never became a slave. He still knows he's royalty. That man wasn't communicating with his words. He was communicating with his being. And most of you are walking around your homes like emotional slaves to your wife's moods, to her reactions, to your own insecurity, and you think saying better sentences will fix it. But she's responding to the way you walk, the way you carry yourself, the way you show up, not your words. When you become a man who truly loves himself, respects himself, and stands on his values and stops tolerating bullshit, you won't have to talk her into respecting you. You won't have to negotiate your worth. You'll communicate it the same way the slave did, without ever saying a word. Here's what changes when you stop over communicating with words and start communicating with action. She stops testing you because you've proven you mean what you say. She starts respecting you because your actions back up your words. She starts desiring you again because women are attracted to men who have standards and enforce them. And you stop feeling like you're constantly explaining yourself, defending yourself, or trying to convince her to treat you better. You just become the kind of man who doesn't tolerate disrespect, and she responds accordingly. The bedroom comes back to life. The nagging stops. The cold shoulder disappears. Not because you talked more, but because you acted more. But if you keep thinking the problem is bad communication and you just need to talk more, here's what happens. You keep having the same conversations over and over again. Nothing changes. She keeps disrespecting you because your words have no weight. You lose more respect in her eyes every time you try to communicate your way out of a problem instead of taking action. And eventually she checks out completely because she's not attracted to a man who's all talk but doesn't act. 6 months from now, a year from now, you'll still be trying to find the right words while she's already made up her mind. Okay? She's already decided to divorce you. She's already decided to take your kids. Even worse, she's already decided to fuck another man who provides her nothing while she has your last name. Is that really the future that you want? Look, man, if you're an entrepreneur, an executive, or an engineer, and you're tired of feeling like your words don't matter in your own home, I can help you. I've put together a free blueprint that shows you exactly how to communicate through actions, set boundaries that stick, and make your wife respect you again. It's called How to Stop Your Wife's Bad Behavior Once and For All. This blueprint breaks down the exact framework my clients use to stop over talking and start commanding respect through their behavior. Click the link in the description below to grab it now. Or if you want the opportunity to work with me and my team one-on-one to turn your marriage around in the next 30 days, go to the 30dayfix.net. Stop talking, start acting, watch what the fuck happens. Till next time, I've been your host, AD the Kingmaker. Peace.